Good morning, good morning. It is Wednesday, the 14th of June, 2023. I hope you can see me. I hope you can hear me. Big shout out to everyone in the chat there. We've got Plum Duff, we've got Master Templar, we've got Purity Vendetta, we've got Heppy, we've got David Huardo, we've got Plum Duff again. We've got Lucy Willis is in there, we've got Johnny Copperhead, we've got Cathal, we've got Paul Ewan saying, I'm bloody fuming this morning. I'm guessing Graham will be. Perhaps the by-elections need to send the message after returning a Tory MP is meaningless given their majority and upcoming general election. Well, I was reading something this morning about how Alec Douglas Hughes, a disastrous Tory party of 1963, maybe, or 64, they had 4 by-elections and they actually won 3 of them when everyone thought there's a scandal hit. It's going to be awful. It's not going to work. And then it did. So you never know. But let's just talk firstly about the fatal motion last night. And it's been a bit weird because I don't like coming on here and talking about stuff. I don't really know that much about it. So usually I'll do a bit of research before I sit down in front of people and start talking about stuff. David Faulkner, $38, Hong Kong dollars. Labour says it will not stand up for rights of the ordinary people to protest. Well, from what I can ascertain, it's not as simple as that. And I hope I can take you with me on this journey. Look, I don't mean any animosity towards anyone. I know that a lot of my friends are really, really angry about Labour's stance in the House of Lords last night. So we'll just go through it. But what I was going to say is there's hardly any news about this. There's nothing about it that I can find on the Guardian website. On the Guardian website, who loves to give Labour a kicking. Like, why isn't it there? Why isn't it more of a thing? And then when I drilled down into it, I was looking on Twitter. There was a tweet a couple of days ago from Emily Thornberry. There was one last night from West Streeting explaining their point of view. And to be honest with you, the number of people comments saying, I hate you, I'll never vote for you again, versus the number of likes, if you wanted to ratio it, it was kind of even. So, yeah, let's get into it. So essentially what's happened is Green Peer, it's like it's a peer in Brighton. Green Peer, Jenny Jones, who I have a personal beef with, and I'll get into that in a moment. But first of all, she has tabled what's called a fatal motion. And from what I can understand, and obviously correct me in the comments, that's absolutely fine if this is wrong, but a fatal motion in the House of Lords has hardly ever been used. It would be, I think at this point, the equivalent of the monarch refusing to sign a bill. It actually kills the bill dead in the House of Lords. It's been threatened, I think last year, it was threatened back in 2015 about a budget deal that they were trying to get it through. One thing that we have to bear in mind, and this is, it's not the greatest system in the world, but it's the system we've got. And the House of Lords isn't supposed to override Parliament. Isn't supposed to override the House of Commons. So Parliament's made up of the House of Lords and the House of Commons. The House of Lords is there for scrutiny. It's not there to kill bills. Like the movies, Kill Bill 1 and 2, Kill Bills. I was going to mention a joke about David Carradine, but I won't. It'd be a very poor taste at this early in the morning. Anyway, so that's the stance that Labour are coming from. They're saying, well, we don't do this. This doesn't happen in the House of Lords. We don't stop these bills from going through. And they've got some flack for this, but considering like all of us politics nerds are going, oh my God, I can't believe they've done this. Whereas most of the country don't even realise that this has happened. There's been some political calculation in that. And so Labour have abstained and they're put forward a motion of protest, is it? Basically, a motion of sorrow, I think it is, or regret. No, regret. A motion of regret to say, we think that this is a bad thing. And that goes back to the House of Commons, where it will be debated and voted on again in the House of Commons. Now, I guess Labour are hoping that the fact that they've raised an objection to this bill will be enough to get a few Tory MPs, not that many, to vote against it in the, I think it's the third and final reading that it's going to go to. But there's more to this story. It's not just like the Tories wanted to do something and they got it through the first few stages in the House of Commons, and it went to the House of Lords, went back to the House of Commons, then went back to the House of Lords. And the House of Lords like, no, we really don't want this. It's already been, this amendment has already been knocked back. It's the wording, and specifically it's about the protest law that the Tories are trying to bring in because they don't want people protesting. And in it, it says that anything above minor disruption, that's the little addendum they put in. And they used a statutory instrument to be able to put this in. It's a technical thing. I don't really understand this stuff, okay? I'm not the best person to go into it. I'm sure Phil will do a really in-depth video about how it all works. But from my understanding, limited understanding, correct me in the comments if you feel like it, I don't think that this has ever been done before in this way, where a minister has overridden the will of Parliament because this got knocked back from the House of Lords. They said, this is too much, rewrite it, try again. So it's the equivalent of you making a mistake on your homework, giving it to the teacher circling the mistake, saying, correct this mistake, and then you crossing it out and writing in the same mistake and then sending it back to the teacher. And the teacher's like, what? I told you to change that. And you're like, yeah, but I didn't. Ha 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 ha. But the worry is for Labour that if they went along with Jenny Jones's idea, a fatal motion, and killed off this bill, that the Tories will do that to them once Labour are in power next. And a little bit of, topping on that, Keir Starmer wants to abolish the House of Lords. So there'll be a point at which there's going to have to be a motion. Think about this for a moment. There's going to have to be a bill going through Parliament to abolish the House of Lords. Right? And if the House of Lords can block that, literally kill that bill, then the House of Lords stays there forever. Do you see what I'm getting at? Look, this is why I don't like politics. I'll jump into your comments, see what you've got to say about it. Using an SI, statutory instrument, to introduce primary legislation is unprecedented. That's why the fatal motion was introduced. That's from Dinello, yes. Just waiting for someone, usually apologists, to say that Starmer is playing the long game. This wasn't a bill. The bill was defeated in the House of Commons. It's a backdoor action to override the House of Commons. I don't think it was defeated in the House of Commons. I think it was defeated in the House of Lords. It was sent back. And then they just, that particular amendment, and now they've just amended it again for the same thing. I think the case of question was, I agree with the fatal motion, but constitutionally it would have been a dangerous precedent. That's from Christopher. Christopher, I'm kind of on your side here, mate. I know I'm upset about it anyway, but I feel like this is a terrible, terrible bill. This is an awful bill. This is a bill that damages me personally and people that I know and love who go out and protest against the government because the government's awful and deserves people protesting against it. So for me, I would love it if Labour killed this bill, but they're in opposition. That it's not up to them to be able to do this kind of thing, and it's that worry further down the line. I don't like the words long game. I won't use that myself because I always go, yeah, well, we heard that about Corbyn for 5 years, didn't we? Oh, he's playing the long game, Graham. He's playing the long game. He's playing long. There was a clip on this TV show by Amano Minucci called Time Trumpet, and it was set in the future. It was like a documentary series looking back on like the 2020s and the 2030s. So it was like a futuristic retro comedy thing. And one of the scenes I always remember, it was Tony Blair as this vagrant living on the streets of London, going through the litter bins, like picking up the trash can lids, going, "I'm going to find the weapons of mass destruction." And Tony Blair has entered his 27th year of trying to find the weapons of mass destruction, and it's like CCTV footage of him looking in the bins for it. And I feel like for some Corbyn supporters that there's something similar going on, like they're looking for the long game that Corbyn was playing against Brexit, and yeah. Didn't quite go down that way. However, right, talking of Brexit, and you knew this was going to come up, didn't you? All roads lead to Brexit, and I'm going to be doing a video later on today about the fact that tens of thousands of people in Britain died as a result of Brexit. Direct result, you can draw a straight line from the fact that the government was obsessed with the cult of Brexitism, and instead of actually concentrating on preparing us for pandemics and actually planning the pandemics, this is before it even began, they were too obsessed with actually getting Brexit over the line, getting prepped for a no-deal Brexit, which didn't happen, and the fact that the EU did say, hey, listen, you can have an extension of 1 or 2 years until this, this catastrophe, this global pandemic is over, and our government rejected that. I'll be doing that later, but let's just talk about Jenny Jones. So Jenny Jones is a Green peer Brexiteer. That rhymes, you see, it's like poetry, it rhymes. For all the George Lucas fans out there. Yeah, massive Brexiteer. She voted in the House of Lords to activate Article 50. So, I'm sitting here thinking, that's a bit rich. Jenny? Jenster? Jen girl? J Green? I'm very good at these nicknames. Yeah, a bit rich. So this woman voted and campaigned for Brexit. And that has taken away more of my rights than anything else in my lifetime. Ever. Like, that took away my birthright as a EU citizen. It took away my EU citizenship. It took it from me. And Jenny Jones was all for it. She campaigned for it. So there's a part of me that thinks, well, bit rich now after handing Boris Johnson and his gang of lunatics all the power that they could ever possibly want. Don't forget they have an 80-seat majority. Well, they had an 80-seat majority. It's like 60 now or something. It's going down by the day, but it's still a hefty majority. It's the biggest majority the Tories have had in Parliament since 1987, and she was instrumental in helping them get to that point because she helped toxify absolutely everything to do with British politics by supporting Brexit and maybe getting some Greens who are otherwise sensible about their, wanting the government not to pour thousands of gigalitres of sewage into our rivers. Maybe they would have not voted for something that would result in the government allowing water companies to pump just all this effluent into our rivers and streams and saddle our beaches with some of the worst bathing waters in the entire continent. So there's that. So there's a part of me that thinks, is this the Greens playing politics? Is this Caroline Lucas and Jenny Jones going, I'm going to put Labour in a position that's going to make Labour look bad at a time when we really, really need to be looking at the Tories right now, because they're the ones who have brought in this bill. They're the ones who now Boris Johnson has delayed the outcome from the Privileges Committee to say whether he broke the broke ministerial rules, held Parliament in contempt, lied to the House, that's it, misled the House by a last minute missive from Boris Johnson, easy for you to say, which has delayed that. Also, I mean, Rishi Sunak's kind of happy about this whole mad Nads because Nadine Dorries hasn't actually resigned yet. The other two have. Like Boris Johnson, that other guy, they've resigned, but she still hasn't resigned yet. She's still whinging about, I'm a working class girl from the streets of Liverpool. Who knew? I didn't even know she was from Liverpool. Anyway, she's that, and that's what stopped her being in the House of Lords. But what's really funny about that, she was blocked by posh boys. Posh boys. It was the poshest boy, Nadine, in the country who put you in a position where you could justifiably say, well, I should be in the House of Lords because I was a government minister. That would be Boris Johnson, born into unimaginable wealth, to a wife beater, a guy who went to Eton, a guy who went to Oxford, a guy who's never worked a day in his life, a guy who just keeps falling forward, and every time he resigns in disgrace or is fired in disgrace, he always bounces back because he's very, very rich, and that's the way the system works, Nadine, and you were his pet. And now you're like, oh, but I was promised a seat in the House of Lords. Promised by who? Who promised you that, Nadine? Oh, Boris Johnson, the world's second most famous liar after Donald Trump, who appeared in court yesterday. I haven't even got onto that, but yeah, this is all very convenient for Rishi Sunak at the moment for everyone to be obsessing over Boris Johnson and other things and the protest bill, because mortgage rates have gone bananas and Santander and HSBC have stopped offering mortgage packages. It's a disaster. And gilt yields, I don't know what these are, but they're bad, I guess, when they go up really high, I suppose. They're higher now than they were, or lower, I don't know, one of the two. But one of the bad things, they're worse now than they were under Nadine Dorries. Yeah, he doesn't really want people talking about that because that's the kind of thing that could destroy a government, especially in places like Mid-Bedfordshire, which has the third highest number of mortgages in the country, I think, or something like that. Anyway, Graham, Gay Pride is soon. It's Pride Month. It's Pride Month. We had a mini Pride event here in Durham over the weekend, and we actually had like a proper Pride event. Not as big as Newcastle or Manchester or Liverpool, but yeah, it was cool. It was cool. Democratic politics has to be played out in public, not the smoke-filled rooms. Britain needs a codified constitution like yesterday, Kieran. I couldn't agree more. Johnson is noisily and disruptively protesting his innocence. Can we have him arrested for that? I wish, Don. I really wish. I think they won't block it anyway. That's for Vendetta. I think maybe you're referring to the House of Lords blocking the abolition of the House of Lords. If this precedent is set that you can put in a fatal motion and stop it, then it gives credence to the idea that they could do that. Because if you have a Labour-dominated House of Commons and you have a Conservative-dominated, because don't forget, what's his name? Boris Johnson's put a load more peers into the House of Lords. Nadine and except for Nadine Dorries and Liz Truss. Also, she hasn't even given in a resignation honours list. I don't think. Maybe she hasn't. The HOLAC committee are looking at it, but like she gets a list. She was only Prime Minister for 5 minutes, and she gets a list of people to put in the House of Lords. So it could get to a point where, when the House of Lords was reformed in 1999 by the Blair government, they got rid of all the life peers and people like that. So it went from a more conservative chamber to a no overall control chamber, and you had crossbenchers who don't sit with any particular party. And that seemed to work quite well. But at the moment, it's so bloated because every single one of these Tory PMs, and we've had a few, we've had 5 actually since 2016. They all want their list. They all want their list of people to put into the House of Lords. They're stuffing it with Conservatives and cronies. Don't forget, Boris Johnson himself, when he was Prime Minister, he put in people like Lebedev. Didn't Michelle Mone? How did she get in? Did she get in through Cameron? Was that? But yeah, Lord Lebedev of Siberia got in. Daniel Hannan, Frosty the No Man he's in the House of Lords now. And so, yeah, I mean, we're getting to a point where there's going to be over 800 peers. There's going to be 800 members of the House of Lords. 800 for a country of 66.6 million people, 67 million people. Compare that with the US, where they have the Senate and the upper chamber, and it has 100 seats. 100. That's spread out amongst 330 million people. So yeah, a bit mad. I think it's 300 non-Tory lords out of over 800. Yeah, this is a big problem. So I can see problems coming up. Michael, Mikhail, maybe. Prime Ministers, I love that. Questions today. Too much for Labour to choose from. I think that little Rishi's best bet is to reply with disdain and arrogance to every question, which he always does. I bet the mortgage things comes up because what Labour want to do is hit the Tories in their own constituency. They want to destroy the blue wall, and I think they've got a very good chance of doing it because, look, not everyone obsesses over politics like we do. Most people are just getting on with their lives. But when their mortgage repayments are coming in, when their mortgage bills are coming in and they've gone up by £300, £400 a month, people notice that stuff. They really do. And the government really doesn't have any power to do anything about it. They can harp on about how much money they're given to help us with paying off the energy companies and the fossil fuel companies, which is money taken from the taxpayer and given to these private companies and foreign shareholders for some reason. They can do that, but I don't think, what can they do about mortgages going up? It's not the same, is it? Lord Novichok of Polonian and Barbaria. Yes, indeed. That's very good. Mad Nats of Nutty Ash. Well, no, she's from Anfield, actually. I'm from Nutty Ash. I was, my parents were married in Nutty Ash Church, Parish Church, which is over the road from where Ken Dodge used to live. Notty Ash is a real place in Liverpool. It's not just made up. But because of the constituency boundaries, we were kind of in the postal area. We were in the parish of Notty Ash, but we're in the postal area of West Derby. But there you go. Fun facts. Lord Novichok. Yeah, I love that. I think Philip Schofield should be in the House of Lords. He could entertain them at Gordon. Okay, Plum. There's an algorithm I learned in Scotland that could help, but I can't remember its name. Under Pressure. Botham should have stuck to quicker than one. Oh, God, yeah. Ian Botham, the guy who famously tweeted a picture of his own penis and put it on Twitter for everyone to see. Wow. Has Doris actually resigned or just talked about it, John Bull? She hasn't resigned. She just said that she would. She hadn't. You've got to resign to, like, I don't know, the Chancellor or something. It's like the weird arcane system. Not the leader or the whip. You resigned to the Chancellor, maybe? I don't know. But Boris Johnson has, and that other guy has. Nadine Dorries hasn't resigned. And now it looks like she might be holding it over Rishi Sunak. Saying, well, I might resign, today. I might resign tomorrow. Maybe not for 18 months, but I will resign at some point. I hope the Tories lose the 3 by-elections. I really do. Does that make you a Diddy man? Yes, born down the Jam Butty mines. Not as much of a Diddy man as little Diddy Sunak, the prime minister. Gilt yields, how expensive borrowing is. This is from Craig. It's why the Labour Green Deal stuff is being trimmed back, because borrowing big sums is getting harder as Tories run up the credit card. Yeah. And don't forget as well, thanks for that message, Craig, because obviously that's a bit more succinct now what I was talking about, because I don't really understand the whole gilt yields thing as well as I should, really. I need to do a bit more research on that. But I'm not a mortgage holder. But then that's the fault of the Tory government and Brexit. So, it all comes around full circle. We all get it in the end. But yeah, as borrowing goes up, but also like foreign investment's gone off a cliff because of Brexit. And another thing that's happened because of Brexit is just not just investors losing confidence, but we've slipped down from our AAA plus credit rating that we used to have at Moody's and Standard & Poor and these other credit rating agencies that do the credit checks for countries, and we've slipped right down the rankings. I think we're like down to AA or maybe just A now, which is really bad, because it means that when we borrow money from other places, we pay a higher amount of interest on those, because we're not as trusted as we used to be to pay our debts. Great. Novichok means newcomer in Russian. Oh, there you go. Ladies, MPs and gentlemen, vote Labour. The country is in crisis and we have constant Tory drama. Indeed, but they need the drama to distract you from the horrible things that they're doing in the background, like making people's mortgages go through the roof, making their bill payments go through the roof, making their fuel payments go through the roof, making their fuel bills go through the roof, and really putting a massive squeeze on everyone. The people in the lower economic bracket have been squeezed since austerity began 13 years ago. Now the middle classes are getting squeezed like never before. And there's an entire generation who's just like, why are these people in charge? And you're tempted to ask, aren't you? Like the older generation, like, why do you want young people to suffer? Why do you want your own children and grandchildren to suffer? Will you stop voting Conservative? Will you stop voting for these absolute clowns who obviously patently don't know what they're doing and are damaging our country and damaging our country's future? But, Tory parties, don't vote, stay at home, save lives, protect the NHS. Indeed. I would quite like every single Brexit voter in the country to pick up the phone and apologise. Just apologise. There must be someone in their life that they've screwed over by their vote. I've never had a Brexit voter that I know apologise to me for putting my life on a completely different trajectory. But yeah, maybe one day. You live in hope, don't you? Not to mention flogging, revisitive foot massages. I don't know what that's about. I don't do that. Anagi Pagan says, good morning from Padgerton in Devonshire. Good people, heathen socialists in chat. Sorry I'm late. The country is in crisis. That's from Plum Duff. I was just making coffee. Okay. Will say that's some scoop them. So Lively Cat says, will little Rishi Sunak be bolstered by Labour abstaining on that horrible protest bill? Will he gloat about saying that for once Labour agree with Tory policies? Well, no, he can't, because that wouldn't be true, because they've put in a motion of regret to say that they don't agree with this, but they abstained on the fatal motion because they want to be able to say in a couple of years' time, when the House of Lords is facing abolition, that the House of Lords can't be in a position, because it's going to be a big constitutional thing getting rid of the House of Lords. It's not going to be easy, And there's going to be people in the House of Lords who are going to push back because it's a cushy job for them. They have 300 quid just for turning up, just for clocking in. They can go, they clock in and then leave. They don't even have to hang about. 300 quid a pop. That's a nice worker. You can get it. But the Tories have devalued the House of Lords so much, especially with these cronies that Boris Johnson's put in, including Charlotte Owens, Charlotte Owen, who's a 29-year-old no mark. And it was funny, I did a video and I said, she hasn't even got a Wikipedia page. And literally that night, someone made a Wikipedia page for her just because she'd been elevated to the House of Lords. And everyone's like, who is she? What's she done? Nothing. She's just some young blonde person who Boris Johnson obviously has a little bit of a thing for young blonde people. Anyway. Oh, but they do know what they're doing. We have a kleptocracy, not a government. Yeah, that's very true. I wish this didn't start at past. That lands my daily stand-up at work. I'm sorry about that, Click. Will Trump end up in prison? That's been plumbed off. We've only got a few minutes to talk about this. Whole new video. I could just talk all morning about the stuff that's going on this week. It is quite intense. It's just like coming at you from all directions. Yesterday on the BBC website, there were 4 live update stories going on at once. That doesn't normally happen unless there's like lots of football matches on or something. But yeah, 4 stories that were being live updated on the BBC website. But yeah, Trump has been indicted, and now he's stood in front of a judge and claimed he's not guilty on 37 counts. 37 counts of some of the most serious breaches of handling of classified information you can possibly imagine. And you got to think about this for a moment as well. Imagine for a moment, just for a moment, and thanks to America is the Bad Place on TikTok for pointing this out, because it's a good point and credit where credit's due. Would you give info if you're not if you're not one of the Five Eyes, or even if you are, but like if you're not NATO, right, and you get information from some of your spies that there is going to be a big attack on America, and then America's going to say, okay, where's your proof? And they'll say, well, we've got these spies who are looking, and here's who the spies are. Are you going to? Because there's a chance now, as we've seen, that the president of the United States can take documents with your agents' names on the documents that have, been working undercover with terrorists in the Middle East, for instance. And he can take that from the White House and just put it in his toilet in his house, where everyone could turn up. He's a 500 bloody seat dining room or ballroom, and he puts it on the stage. He's showing people, hey, look at this crime. Hey, check out this crime. Isn't that cool? I'm showing you a crime here. I'm showing you a thing that is illegal to show. And what's interesting about the way they're going after Trump, they haven't gone for everything. They haven't thrown the book at him that they would have done with anybody else, like Edward Snowden or Chelsea Manning or anyone like that. They would really have gone after that. No, they did go after them. The guy from WikiLeaks. But with Trump, they have only gone after the things that are absolute slam dunks. Absolute 100% slam dunks. And whereas the right whingers on the Republican side are saying, it's a witch hunt, it's a witch hunt. What precedent does this set for every president to come along and just arrest the last one? Yeah, but what precedent does it set if they don't arrest him? What precedent does it set to intelligence gathering community agencies around the world if Trump isn't brought to book for this, for sharing this sensitive data about the nuclear secrets of not just America but other countries? I mean, come on. He's got to go down, otherwise the precedent of that sense is a lot worse. And this is why Biden has just tried to talk about it. He's not brought it up. When he's asked about it, he goes, it's nothing to do with me, it's the Justice Department, it's their bag, which is the right way to deal with this. Whether Trump goes to jail or not, he's too rich. Unfortunately, life doesn't work that way. As anyone who's seen the great film Lord of War with Nicolas Cage will be able to testify. I'd like Labour to apologise to us. No shame. Look over there. We suffered death squads, Sinn Féin haters. We saw you. History doesn't lie anymore. It's recorded. That's unknown, Finnegan. I mean, I don't think it's not just Labour supporters. I think that the country of Britain owes an apology to a lot of people around the world for what was done in Ireland. The Irish population still hasn't recovered from the potato famine. What was done in the colonial era, the scramble for Africa, the absolute crimes that were committed, the things that were stolen around the world that are still now in the British Museum. I mean, not only do we not apologise for stealing all this stuff, we're refusing to give it back to its rightful owners who we stole it off. Wow. So, yeah, I mean, look, I don't think it's Labour supporters necessarily that you need an apology from. I think it's the people in charge, of this country who have systematically gone around the world and made things worse for other people living around the world in the way that Tonga has not made my life any more difficult. The good people from Tonga, they never came over here in boats and enslaved us all, did they? Put us to work. What's this work thing? We don't need to work. We live on a tropical island. Like, literally everything that you put a stick in the ground, it grows. There's fish in the sea. We just chill out all day playing songs and having a good time. Oh, no, you got to work. I don't want to work. You got to work. And if you don't, we're going to bring people over from India and they're going to work on your land. What? Hey, why would you do that? Oh, my God. What? Okay. Anyway, what about Britain Trump? He must be investigated too. Yeah, well, that would be absolutely fantastic. Great show, Graham. Have a great day, peeps. That's Plum Duff saying, come on, Graham. Time's up. We've got to listen to James O'Brien now. He's almost going to be on LBC. Now, I've got a few things to do leading up to PMQs at 12 o'clock, so I won't be able to do the listen along that I sometimes do on Labour Social's Discord server. But if someone wants to do that, One Angry Pagan or someone wants to do that, I might drop in as it goes. And they can just share the screen with the LBC stuff on. That would be cool. Trump is also 77. I think house arrest is the most likely outcome. I do like the idea of him spending the rest of his life in jail. That will make me happy. But it does feel in a way that, come on, like they can't get away with this. This is like the 8th Harry Potter film. Voldemort can't keep getting away with it. He can't keep escaping at the end of every bloody episode of this film franchise. He's got to get it at some point, and it feels a little bit like this could be the end of Boris Johnson and Donald Trump politically, but whether that actually happens or not, I don't know. And just to go back to a video that I did on Monday where I said that there's a chance that Boris Johnson could be kicked out, banned from the Commons for life. It wouldn't quite be that way. It would be he would have his ex-prime minister's privilege revoked. He would still be able to go into the House of Commons and he would still be able to stand as an MP because you can't bind the hands of future governments or future people going for governance. But we really need to we need to sort out what's happening now. They say mend the roof when it's not raining, but it's raining now. It's absolutely pouring down. Our house is collapsing under the weight of all the duplicity, lies, shenanigans, bribery, corruption in this Tory government, this Tory estate. And that needs to be fixed. And then we need to start working on the other stuff, the systemic problems in our society, that we aren't in a democracy anymore. We have been... For years, we've not been a real democracy because we're run by 4 families that run the tabloids, and what they want happens. They want Brexit, it happens. They want us to pull out the EU, it happens. They want to stop protests, it happens. And we're just vassals to these foreign oligarchs who live in other countries or were born here but non-dom status. And we've got to sort all that out. There's a lot to do. There is a lot to do. Me and my friends were talking about the weekends, writing up a manifesto about all the things that need to be done, just in case there's some things that Labour haven't thought of. But we'll talk about that more in future episodes. And I might actually start a little series on here if I've got time, talking about what we could do, things that we could do better, and ways of doing so. Because don't forget, these MPs aren't infallible. The people advising them don't know everything. And there are good ideas out there, things that are done better in other countries, or things that they may not have thought of, may not have been pointed out to them. And it's one of the reasons why Labour Social exists. So thank you very much for sticking with me through the show there. Again, rock hard Labour. And Kieran, I'm on the way to the Graves Are Dead. I'll pass your message on. That's from Noam. Okay, the poverty in Britain at the moment is criminal. That's from Kieran. It is absolutely shocking that we live in one of the richest countries in the world, and people have to choose whether to eat or heat their homes. And that horrible, horrible winter of people having to wait 2 hours for an ambulance to turn up, thousands of people dying as a result of Tory policies, years of Tory policies. It's just not on. Right. Okay. So I'll try and leave you on a happy note. It looks like it's the end for Boris Johnson and Trump. I mean, touch wood. Can they come back from this? Can they? Can they? Can they really? I hope not. But yeah, until I return to you at 12 o'clock for Prime Minister's Questions, thanks so much for watching. And I'll say hello, good evening, welcome, and watch Ben Chambers's, just remember, Ben Chambers's 6 Million Rising bite-sized channel that he started on YouTube. He's looking for people to subscribe to his channel so he can have extra functions, because the more subscribers you have, the more functionality you have. So if you would do that, that would be legendary. But until next time, thanks for watching. Take care of each other. Hello, good evening, welcome, and goodbye.